A tree does not chase the wind. It stands still and everything it needs comes in time: water, sunlight, roots, and growth. Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of clarity and peace, let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to hold water in your hands by squeezing tighter? The more you grip, the faster it slips away. The journey of personal transformation begins not by trying to rearrange the external world, but by looking inward. Many people fall into the trap of believing that if they can fix everything around them, their relationships, their career, their environment, then they will finally feel at peace. But this approach is reversed. The outer world is often a reflection of the inner world. Without inner clarity, even the most perfect external circumstances will feel unfulfilling or chaotic. When you begin to focus on yourself, not out of ego, but out of awareness, you start to see where your energy is leaking. You start to notice how much of your time is spent in comparison, distraction, or worry. By pulling that energy back and investing it in understanding your own thoughts, emotions, and habits, a shift begins. Instead of reacting to every situation, you respond. Instead of blaming the world, you take responsibility for your own growth. This simple shift in attention changes everything. In the Shaolin tradition, students are taught to look within first. Before they are given complex techniques, they must learn how to sit in stillness, breathe consciously, and walk with mindfulness. This is not because the masters want to delay their progress. It is because they understand the root of true power. Mastery of the external begins with mastery of the internal. When you focus on yourself, you become more aware of your own patterns. You begin to notice the tension you carry, the judgments you hold, the fears you run from, and in that awareness you create space to choose differently, to grow. Over time, this internal work begins to affect everything around you. You communicate better. You make decisions from clarity rather than confusion. You attract people and opportunities that match your energy rather than ones that feed your distractions. It's not that the world suddenly becomes easier. It's that you become more aligned with it. You stop trying to force things and begin to move in rhythm with life. Like a river that flows naturally around rocks, your presence adapts and shapes situations rather than resisting them. This is the essence of the teaching. When you focus on yourself, the world does not need to be chased. It begins to fall into place. Stillness is often misunderstood in modern life. In a world that glorifies constant activity, endless ambition, and immediate response, stillness can seem like weakness or passivity. But in truth, stillness is one of the highest forms of strength. It is the calm center that holds steady when everything else is in motion. It is the space between stimulus and response where wisdom arises. When you learn to cultivate stillness, you begin to see clearly, think deeply, and act with purpose. Consider the surface of a still lake. When it is undisturbed, it reflects the sky, the trees, and everything around it with perfect clarity. But when it is agitated, the reflection is broken, distorted. The same is true of the mind. When the mind is racing, filled with anxiety, comparison, or noise, it cannot see the truth of a situation. It reacts from fear, from habit, from confusion. But when the mind is still, it becomes a mirror. It reflects reality as it is, not as we imagine it to be. From this clarity, wise action follows. Many people believe strength is in aggression, in dominance, in being louder than others. But real power lies in restraint, in knowing when not to react, when to hold silence, when to observe rather than intervene. A person who has trained their inner stillness cannot be easily provoked. They are not moved by every opinion, not disturbed by every challenge. They have developed an unshakable center. This kind of presence is rare and it is deeply respected. Think of the martial artist who does not move unless necessary, the monk who speaks only when the words carry weight. Their power does not come from showing off. It comes from deep control, from discipline. Their stillness is not emptiness, it is full awareness. Cultivating this state takes time and practice. It may begin with meditation, breath control, or simply moments of conscious pause during your day. Over time, the space you create inside yourself becomes a sanctuary. No matter what chaos surrounds you, you are not lost in it. You remain rooted, present, and calm. And from that place of inner stillness, you are able to act, not out of panic, but out of purpose. That is real strength. There is a common misconception that focusing on oneself is selfish. In a culture that often praises self-sacrifice and overextension, many people feel guilty for setting boundaries, taking time alone, or prioritizing their own well-being. But this view is misguided. Focusing on yourself, your growth, your clarity, your peace is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of responsibility. You cannot give what you do not have. A person who is not grounded in themselves cannot bring true value to others. They may offer help, but it will be laced with resentment, exhaustion, or the desire for approval. That is not service. That is imbalance. When you take the time to strengthen your inner world, everything you offer to the outer world becomes more powerful. Your words carry more weight. Your actions become more intentional. You are no longer pulled in every direction by other people's expectations or emotions. Instead, you act from a place of fullness, not lack. You don't need others to validate you, because you've learned to validate yourself. You don't need others to carry your burdens, because you've built the inner muscles to carry your own. This is the essence of being truly useful in the world. A person who is centered is not easily shaken. They do not bring their chaos into every interaction. They bring calm. They bring clarity. They listen more than they speak. They observe more than they judge. And when they do act, their energy is focused and clean. This kind of presence can change the entire energy of a room. It can de-escalate conflict, create trust and open hearts, not through force, but through the strength of being fully aligned with oneself. This alignment, however, does not happen by accident. It comes from regular self-practice, from sitting with your thoughts, moving your body with awareness, reflecting on your habits, and making conscious choices. It is not about isolating yourself or rejecting others. It is about refining yourself so that when you do show up for others, you do so with depth and integrity. Focusing on yourself is not turning away from the world. It is preparing yourself to meet the world with wisdom. Only when you are whole can you help others heal. Only when you are present can you truly connect. And only when you know yourself can you truly serve. Many people spend their lives trying to control what is outside of them. People's opinions, outcomes, circumstances. This need to control comes from fear. We believe that if we can make everything fit into our plans, we will feel safe. But life is not something to be controlled. It is something to be understood and flowed with. Control is rigid, tense, and ultimately exhausting. Flow is adaptable, open, and powerful in a quiet way. True strength does not come from dominating life, but from moving in harmony with it. Imagine a river flowing through a valley. It does not fight the rocks in its path, it simply moves around them. And in time, it carves the stone, shapes the landscape, and creates its own way forward. That is the power of flow. It is not passive, but it is patient. It does not resist the present moment, it works with it. In martial arts, the same principle applies. A master does not fight force. They yield, redirect, and use their opponent's energy to create movement and opportunity. This is a lesson not just in combat, but in life. When we try to control everything, we become rigid, and when life doesn't go as planned, as it often doesn't, we become frustrated, anxious, or angry. But when we practice flow, we remain open. We see challenges not as obstacles, but as part of the path. We adjust, respond, and move with what is, rather than clinging to what we think should be. This mindset reduces suffering, because suffering often comes from resisting reality. Letting go of control does not mean giving up responsibility. It means focusing on what you can influence, your thoughts, your actions, your mindset, and trusting the process for the rest. This shift brings peace. You no longer waste energy on things outside your reach. Instead, you channel that energy into presence, into growth, into alignment. As you cultivate this approach, you'll find that things start to move more smoothly, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Your resistance softens, your awareness expands, and like water, you begin to find your way through every terrain. Control is brittle and breaks under pressure. Flow bends, adapts, and continues. This is the quiet power that transforms both obstacles and outcomes. Your inner world is like a garden. If left unattended, weeds grow. Doubt, frustration, envy, fear. But if you take the time each day to tend to it, to nurture your thoughts and actions with intention, it becomes a place of peace and strength. Many people spend their entire lives trying to fix what's outside of them while ignoring what's happening inside. They try to control relationships, careers, and circumstances without realizing that the true foundation of a good life is built within. Just as a garden needs water, sunlight, and care, your mind and spirit need daily attention to stay healthy and balanced. It doesn't take hours of effort or grand rituals. It begins with simple, consistent practices: breathing with awareness, reflecting in silence, moving your body with intention, speaking with purpose. These small daily actions compound over time, creating resilience and clarity. Without them, the mind becomes noisy, scattered, and reactive. And when the mind is chaotic, even the best opportunities can feel overwhelming. Even the people closest to you can feel distant. The quality of your life is directly shaped by the state of your inner world. When you take responsibility for your internal condition, you stop blaming others for your discomfort. You recognize that peace is not given, it is cultivated. And just like a garden, it doesn't bloom overnight. It requires showing up, even when you don't feel like it. It requires patience, especially when results are not immediately visible. But with time, your internal discipline creates external ease. You respond better under stress. You speak more clearly in conflict. You see through distractions and stay aligned with your purpose. Most importantly, daily self-tending builds trust in yourself. You begin to rely less on external approval and more on your own inner compass. The noise of the world fades and the voice within becomes stronger. And as you change from the inside, your life around you begins to shift. People respond differently. Circumstances evolve, not because you force them to, but because your energy is different. This is the quiet power of tending your inner garden. It doesn't seek attention, but it transforms everything. The more care you give to yourself, the more strength you have to offer the world. And that is how true, lasting transformation begins.